Hi, I'm Eric Knowles, president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and this is Member Connection. But before we get started, a word from one of our supporters.
We know there is nothing small about running a small business. Our dreams are bigger than the blocks we represent. Our goals make way for generations to follow. And our imaginations outweigh all they said was impossible. Comcast Rise has provided $11 million in grants and services to 8,000 businesses in 590 cities. Because when one rises, we rise together. Apply for a chance to receive a $10,000 business grant from Comcast Rise and keep rising.
And we're back. And I know you're tired of me saying how excited I am about, my guests, but like I said, when you're doing and love your job and you're just helping people out and helping businesses grow, it is exciting. And to have this young man on with me today. John, how are you?
Thank you for the kind words. I was a young man once.
Yeah, well, when we first
it's all
met,
relative.
Yeah, it's all relative. We met several years ago, and you're here in pretty much the same capacity. When we met, you were doing Kapow,
That's
Kids
right.
and the Power of Work.
That's right.
And
Still
now,
am.
yeah, exactly. And we, like I said, we were engaged when I was with the Dolphins organization, and you reached out a little while ago and say, hey, I want to get engaged with the chamber and get involved with businesses because of the great work that you're doing. And that's what we're here today to talk about, some of this great work. Like I said, I know we at the stadium and the Dolphins were very engaged in working with young people. So before we go to talk about, the Learning Center, talk about John Casbarro. Tell folks who you are.
Oh, my goodness. How far back do you want to go? Born in upstate New York near
Where?
Syracuse.
Okay.
In a little town called Auburn. My dad moved us here in 58 when he couldn't stand the snow anymore, and we couldn't either. And so I basically grew up here, first in Miami, and then North Miami High School, University of Miami, a year in Indiana to get a master's degree at Indiana University. And my first career was as a professional musician, actually.
Oh, that part I didn't know.
Yeah, I played French horn in the Miami Philharmonic, the Fort Lauderdale Symphony, ballet, opera, the shows that came to the beach.
Do you still play?
I can play, but I haven't picked it up lately.
Well, you talk about upstate New York. I grew up, I was born in Florida in Fort Pierce, but I grew up in a little town called Lockport.
Okay.
So, which is basically 18 miles east of Niagara Falls, 35 miles north of Buffalo. So Buffalo's here, Niagara Falls are all on the Niagara River, and Lockport was, so we got all the snow.
Yeah, and not too far, I wouldn't think. I don't know my geography too well, but not too far from Auburn and Syracuse.
Yeah, not too far.
No.
A couple hours.
Yeah, it gets cold up there in the winter.
It gets a little chilly. But that's why we're here in South Florida. We're in beautiful South Florida, Miami, et cetera. But tell us about your program.
Well, I got a teaching degree from the University of Miami. I never taught full time, but I always had an interest in education.
Okay.
And I kept looking at what was going on in the schools, and I thought there really is something that's missing. I mean, of course, the academics are important. Of course, kids have to learn to, read and write and math and science and all of that, of course. But the idea of connecting it to the real world and applying what they're learning to what they'd be doing with that learning in the real world, I didn't see that happening.
Absolutely.
And so that sparked my interest in career education and the idea of career development and infusing that kind of resource into schools. And so one of my first jobs out of college too was actually as manager of community affairs with Burger King Corporation at their world headquarters. At the time it was in Cutler Ridge.
Right.
And my job was managing the volunteer program and the foundation, Burger King's foundation. And one of the volunteer programs was Kapow, Kids in the Power of Work. It was developed by a New York-based nonprofit called the National Child Labor Committee.
Okay.
And so that was my first involvement with the Kids in the Power of Work program. It was, in that time, it was in one school with Burger King volunteers in one school in Cutler Ridge Elementary. But as that first year of the program happened, it became successful, and the nonprofit that developed it contacted me and said, what would you think about working for us and helping to expand the program?
So you gave up burgers?
No, they gave me up, actually. They went through one of their annual reorganizations, which they were doing every year practically,
right.
and eliminated the position.
Oh, wow.
But they were very, very generous. The CEO at the time let me work at the United Way for a half a year at full salary and all of that. So at the same time, though, I became a consultant for the National Child Labor Committee and started contacting other businesses. And then the school district came aboard. And then I started actually working with the school district in an office called the Workforce Development at the School to Work office of Miami-Dade County Schools. They had a grant, a federal grant. And under that grant, they hired me to expand the program. And so it started with one school. And now it's we worked with 88 schools last year. And over the course of that, about 150 different businesses. And hundreds of volunteers. The whole organization really is volunteer driven.
Right.
We're a small staff, and the whole program happens because volunteers agree to go into schools and teach lessons about work. And how kids can connect what they're learning in school to how they're going to use that learning. Yeah.
When you speak about it, that's so important because for the most part, when you think about, you matriculate through high school, you go to college, and whether you come out magna cum laude or, you finish school, and a lot of employers, at least from a layman's perspective, they're looking at the fact that you are able to learn something. You can learn their job, but that's not what you really do when you're in school. That's the point that you're making. Mm-hmm. You've learned whatever, you
basic skills,
your basic skills, your scholarship, whatever that was, but the actual job that you're going to go on, the environment, the work environment. So talk about exactly what it is that you do with the program. Well,
that's the other aspect of it, Eric, is the workplace skills. The businesses have a term for it. They call them soft skills.
Correct.
And that's the skills that are many times lacking. In fact, the research has been done and studies done that shows that employers are the thing that they're least satisfied about with incoming employees is their communication skills, decision-making skills, ability to work with others of different nationalities, and backgrounds, work habits.
Getting up and coming to work on time.
Those are the things that they're least satisfied about. And that's what those lessons are about. That's the titles of the lessons: communication, decision-making, positive work habits, teamwork. We have a lesson called Overcoming Bias and Stereotype, which is really important these days, especially. It's always been important, really, but it's about diversity and understanding how to get along and appreciate others that are different than you.
Right.
So that's a gap that continues to be recognized by employees. It hasn't gone away. The need still exists, and this is the gap that we're filling.
I'm sitting here, and I'm listening to you. And the one thing when I'm doing these interviews, I always wait till the end, and we start running out of time. And I ask you to tell people how could they get in touch with you. So I'm going to ask you now, how can people get in touch with you and learn more about your program?
Well, should I give phone numbers?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Can they be displayed on the screen?
Just give the number and the website.
Okay, so my email address is I'll say it and then I'll spell it. It's jcasbarro@aol.com. So that's J, C like Charles, A like Apple, S like Sam, B like boy, ARRO, jcasbarro@aol.com. Best way to get it is that email address, but the number 2 is 786-877-0334. 786-877-0334. We'd love to hear from you and from everybody. We have a goal this year.
And what is that?
And one of the reasons that we joined your chamber is because we want to increase the number of volunteers by 100.
Okay.
We had 400 volunteers last year. We'd like to see that increased to 500.
And so what does a volunteer do?
Well, there's a variety of opportunities now. It began with Kapow, where there's a structured set of 7 lessons, and we assign the volunteer to one teacher and one class, and together they work out their own schedule of these 1-hour lessons throughout the school year. And then if they're able to, they can host a work site visit, a field trip to their work site. If not, we arrange one because it is a requirement of the program. So the volunteers need to do a training, 1 hour virtual now. And then they work out their own schedule and they do the lessons, and they got the whole school year to do the 7 lessons.
Okay.
But there's additional opportunities now. So for people who are a little bit more strapped for time, and that may be, more of a commitment than they're able to right now, then we have a whole new initiative called Learning from Success. Now our organization is called Learning for Success. This is called Learning from, and it's a one-time 1-hour presentation that a volunteer can do at a school that either they choose or we help them choose, with different topics, but all around the same mission, which is for the kids to come away from it understanding better how to connect what they're learning in school to its application in the workplace and their vision for the future. So the volunteers typically talk about their own careers, the challenges that they faced and overcame to become successful, and what skills that the kids need to think about acquiring to be a success in any kind of endeavor.
You talk about skills, and I tell this story every now and then. One of my nephews, and he was like, "Uncle Eric, they want me to mop the floor." What's happening today in 2020 when our young folks, we're in this microwave instant gratification. We want to be the manager. We don't understand. That goes back to those soft skills and understanding that there's a process in getting from point A to point B.
Very interesting that you mentioned that, Eric, because we did a focus group with some of the business people that have participated and supported us over the years, and we asked them that one question, and that was, "What issues are you facing right now, especially post-pandemic?" And that's what they talked about. They talked about their employees, incoming employees, needing instant gratification, and the Publix guy who was a Publix manager said, they want to tell you when they can work, when they want to work, if they want to work. And, and so the dedication and the commitment and the work ethic seems to have taken a pass right now. Part of it seems to be a result of the pandemic and the changes that have occurred. Yeah. Hopefully we'll come back to some normal, whatever that might be, but that's an issue right now with businesses.
Absolutely. And it was before the pandemic, because this little story I'm telling you is way before the pandemic, but obviously the pandemic has exacerbated a lot of this.
It did.
But it's just a mindset, and I understand, we have a lot of young folks who want to be entrepreneurs, they want to be their own boss.
Right.
Because that's a part of it. They want to be their own boss. They don't
YouTube influencer. That's right. Well,
yeah. So, but obviously everyone isn't going to be an entrepreneur. And we all at some point have to find a way to take care of ourselves. And that means getting a job. And this whole process is important with what you're doing, because again, you can learn, you go to school, you learn your ABCs, et cetera, and you learn science, you learn those things, but matriculating through the world and engaging with people one-on-one, and everybody isn't cut out for it, and everybody doesn't understand it. We don't know, and then you don't know what the background and the influences people have at home. So this program, I truly, I was involved with you, as I said, years ago, with the Dolphins organization. And so I'm glad that you sought me out to expose our businesses. We have large corporations, and I can, name them, whether it's Bank of America, Wells Fargo, the Miami Dolphins, and many others. But we have small businesses also. And even the small businesses can learn from this process as well.
Oh, absolutely. I like the expression that goes, "You teach what you need to learn." And so yeah, and that's what our volunteers report back to us. I mean, they're learning along with the kids.
Right.
They're improving their presentation skills. They're improving their confidence and speaking in front of. I'll tell you, if you can engage a group of a class of third graders,
right,
for an hour, you're doing pretty good in terms of your communication skills.
Right.
So everybody benefits that way, and there is that potential for both the volunteers, the students, and the teachers. Many of the teachers, let's look at that for a minute. As good as they are at teaching, but maybe came right out of college and then into the school, and they did not experience the workplace outside of schools.
But just think about that. That's their workplace. So they're learning also.
Yes. So to be exposed to community people, volunteers, business people, professionals, can remind them and enlighten them and encourage them to understand better themselves how to infuse the connections when they're teaching reading and writing and math, so that when a volunteer comes in and says, look, I know your teacher has told you that reading and writing and math are important, but hell, let me tell you, I couldn't do my job without it. Here, let me show you what I have to do in my work. What do you think I had to learn in school to do that? That reinforces then the teacher and what they're trying to get across.
Right.
And that's an important, if you could boil it down, what we do to 3 words, they would be relate, reinforce, and connect. We want to help the kids be able to understand how to relate with their learning to its application in their futures. We want to reinforce what we know the teachers are trying to get across, but validate them as well by having the teachers the volunteers say things like that. And then we want to connect. We want to connect our students, our teachers, and their schools with our volunteers, their businesses, and the community, so that we can all take part. And we have to all take part in the education of our young people.
So what would you say would be your biggest challenge
Right now, it's just rebounding, from the pandemic and recouping the volunteer base that some of which, understandably had to deal with other things at that time. But I'll tell you, before that, and we anticipate when things are as they're getting back to normal now, no problem with getting people to volunteer again, because people want to.
Yeah, we've been locked up for a couple of years, and people are ready to get back out.
But, they first have to take care of them, their own lives. And so that's what's going on now. And people are getting back to their lives that way. And as they get settled, we feel that it's definitely going to rebound.
Right. So last words you'd like to leave with us?
Consider volunteering, whether it be with organizations like ours, but throughout the community. There's so many worthy causes that are worthy and need people to support them. That would be my message. We hope that the people might find volunteering with us to be attractive, but whether it is with us or not, it's important to do that. It's important for us all to serve our community.
All right. Les, how can they get in touch with you?
The phone number again is 786-877-0334, 786-877-0334. My name again is John Casbarro at that number, and the email address, jcasbarro@aol.com.
Okay.
JCasbarro@aol.com.
If you want to know more about the Miami-Dade Chamber, go to www.m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. This has been the Member Connection. Today, I stand before you, a proud graduate of Miami-Dade College and the 5th president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. I'm honored to return to the college that prepared me to become a leader in our community, providing an education second to none. So I'm asking you to please tune in every Monday at 12 noon to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce's Member Connection, as I interview members of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce on our Facebook page at Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce or our YouTube channel, Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. To learn more about the Chamber, please go to m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. 866.